What was the best karma is a bitch moment you have witnessed? I was in daycare as a child. I had very long hair that my dad always put into a ponytail. There was a girl that would pull my ponytail all the time. We were doing a musical chairs thing at the end of the day while parents were picking us up. The girl was behind me and kept yanking my ponytail. I kept telling her to stop. The teacher didn't see anything, so I can't do anything about it. There were a bunch of parents waiting for us to finish our game, my mom included, and she kept doing it, and the teacher didn't see it, so I turned around and punched her as hard as I could. She stumbled into the cubbies where we kept our coats. The teacher tried to chastise me, and my mom was like, nope, I didn't see anything. Didn't even get in trouble. Your mom's awesome. I'm from San Diego, and during the summer, you have to acclaim bonfire pits on the beach really in the morning if you want it for that night. So my friends and I got to the beach at 8 AM and stayed there so we can get a bonfire going into the night. Just before sundown, this one couple asked if they could share the bonfire with us, and since our group wasn't too big, we decided to share it with them. However, that couple proceeded to bring a group of like 15 others, and they literally surrounded the pit and pushed us out. We were pissed, but we were so tired from being at the beach all day, so we decided to head out. Little did we know what that night had an extreme high tide warning, and when we moved all of our stuff over the wall that divided the beach walk with the beach, a huge wave came in and washed out that whole group surrounded by our bonfire. The wave flipped over their table of food, took a handful of sandals back into the ocean, and destroyed all their stuff. The best part was this one girl was trying to jump the wall to save herself, but she didn't jump high enough and ended up falling right back into the waters. Karma's a bitch. I was running laps on a grass field in the military when I was about to lap a guy who'd always lap the shit out of me. So as I passed him I yelled, "Gotcha, bitch," and immediately stepped in a hole in the ground and twisted my ankle. Despite the pain of jacking my ankle up, I thought the comic payout was hilariously timed. My old manager was a monster. Belittled people, made a hostile environment, denied anything that would make coworkers happy while giving himself every comfort. Even denied me a half day to go to my mother's funeral, adding, "Would it be a big deal if you couldn't go?" He finally stepped on his dick after he wrote up a fictitious counseling statement about someone, and the entire office revolted. The manager wasn't fired like we wanted, but he was relieved. So in comes the new manager, very well regarded, 20-year Air Force veteran, retired at E9, humble guy who knew how to handle people. We have our first awkward team meeting, old manager bitterly in attendance, as the new manager is giving his nice to meet you speech. He sees the Dutcher bag glaring around the table trying to intimidate people. He stops talking, pauses for a few seconds, and then says, "You know, when I was in the Air Force I learned that if you take care of your people, they'll take care of you." He then stared directly at the old manager and said, "And if you don't take care of your people, they'll take care of you." Apostrophe. Sitting on a highway late at night because of a bad car accident. The highway was packed and barely moving. One guy thinks he's smarter than everyone else and tries to drive on the shoulder. He makes it a good little ways before running into an on-ramp, also packed with cars. He had nowhere to go, and no one let him in. He was stuck between cars in the rightmost lane and cars from the on-ramp. Everyone stuck bumper to bumper and flowed around him. I went from watching him pass me and almost getting out of my view to passing him and losing sight of him in my rear view. When I was a kid, we visited Montreal. I had gotten the hockey puck as a souvenir. While we were in our hotel, my sister decided to mess with me by hiding it. I got mad and yelled in my high-pitched voice, "Give me back my hockey puck," before smacking her in the head with a pillow. Guess where she had hidden it? Driving to Chicago and a crazy guy is road raging, swerving erratically while yelling about shooting us. He zooms off. 5 or so miles later we see his van upside down in the ditch. He's standing on the shoulder talking to a cop. I got rear-ended in a turn lane by a girl texting. She was doing 45 miles per hour and I was stopped. No major injuries. I went to her court date hoping she got a big fine or something. She got a $50 ticket. I was a little bit upset. As I was sitting at the stoplight to pull out of the court, I watched her run a red light and bone a cop. I don't normally laugh at other people's misfortune. However, I laughed my ass off at that one. When I was driving my Jeep very carefully in a snowstorm and someone in a Mustang passed me in an unsafe manner, he almost lost control of his car, which would have caused an accident that included me. Picture someone dangerously fishtailing right in front of you with an 18-wheeler coming at you in the other lane. Saw him in the ditch about 5 minutes later. Idiot. On my drive back from school, I witnessed a car run a red light in front of a cop. The car was subsequently pulled over. I pointed laughing and then immediately smashed into the car in front of me. I work in an and once a girl got brought in by ambulance after being assaulted. She was walking down the street when some guy tackled her to the ground and tried to drag her down an alley. A good Samaritan managed to chase him off and call the cops. Like 20 minutes later, they brought in a guy in full cardiac arrest. Turns out the police found the attacker and chased him several blocks when he collapsed and his heart gave out. He was dead on arrival and the victim hit him right in the ear. I was kicking a customer out for being racist and cursing at one of my employees. He yelled offensive stuff all, and then he tried to slam the door on his way out. But it had one of those things on it that makes the door close slowly. He pushed it hard. It didn't budge, and he slipped and fell on the floor. We had a good laugh. When my ex-husband, who stole $4,000 from me to go visit his mistress in another country, called me to beg for money, actually my credit card number, as if, because his lights got cut off. I can see you sitting there grinning ear to ear, drinking a glass of wine, just flipping the lights on and off. The other day I was taking my dog for a walk around the neighborhood. She squatted down to take a shit and I reached for my doggy bags, only to realize I was fresh out. So I peeked around making sure nobody was looking, and I just left it. 10 minutes later I'm walking across the road and I cut through a thin grass median in the center, and what do you know? I step in dog shit. I wasn't even mad. I knew I deserved it. When I was in first grade, my class had recess and this bully pushed me to the ground. I fell and was about to go off on the kid when this 4th grader came over, lifted the kid up, and took the kid over to the principal. Karma is a shit. I was at a party one time, and this one girl couldn't stop talking shit about this other girl that was coming to the party. The other girl shows up, and this dude picked her up and hugged her and spun her around in a way where her foot kicked the girl that was talking shit right in the head/face while she was sitting on the couch. Her beer spilled all over her and she caught a black eye. Happened to me at work. Meth head was trying to pay with like 1,000 coins for a $5 scratch off. She tried to say she was only 10 cents short. Ended up being over $1 short. Then complained and said any decent person would have spotted her the money. Pretty much told her she could go down the street and try there if she'd like. She pulled out a 20 and bought 2. As she walked out the store she said karma is a bitch. When she gets to her car, a cop pulls up behind, blocking her in. They proceed to search the car, then arrest her and her boyfriend. It was hilarious. Fuck her. Edit. Since people are curious about why they searched the car, there was more to the story, but I was typing it on my phone at work. There were 4 meth heads in total. She was just the only one that was giving me a problem. The cops showed up in the parking lot either already looking for these people or just by coincidence. They knew the car. It was beat up and pretty recognizable if you happen to see it. 2 of the guys saw the cops when they were outside smoking the cigarette while I was dealing with her. They came inside and went out the other door. She went back out to the car a few minutes later where the driver, her boyfriend I'm assuming, was already in the car. They searched it because they talked to them, ran their IDs, and they both had warrants. They were already in handcuffs in the police car when they searched the meth head's car. So let me get this straight. She tried to buy a scratch off using a bunch of coins. Got mad when nobody gave her $1 and then pulled a 20? Fuck that bitch. A classmate in school broke one of his legs and was using crutches. He was about to go down the stairs and another kid kicked one of his crutches down the stairs. I walked down there and got his crutch for him, and while walking back up, the kid who kicked the crutches came tumbling down and I moved out of the way. The kid broke his arm. Last Saturday I was on a crowded New York City subway at 2 a.m. Two drunk dudes, young 20s, lighting a joint and walking around flaunting it. One literally came up to me. "You think a pothead ain't gonna smoke a joint?" Whatever that means. Close bracket. The whole train kept ignoring them, and they kept parading around being a bunch of morons. They spotted two taller, athletic looking dudes and started making fun of them for looking like cops. Apostrophe. "It was the line 'Which one of you is the sergeant?' Question mark. That finally put the athletic guys over the edge. They looked at each other, smiled, reached into their pocket and pulled out their badges. "Okay boys, empty your pockets." Apostrophe. The subway blew up in laughter. They would have gotten away with everything if they just didn't go bother the two plainclothes police officers. Score 1 for the good guys. And then I went home and smoked a joint in my living room. I worked as a bartender at a bowling alley. For some reason one of the other bartenders hated me. She was constantly poaching people on my side. Horseshoe-shaped bar. So we each got a side. We split tips, and whenever it was her turn to count them down, I know she wasn't splitting them properly. Tried to get the scheduling manager to put her on my days, etc. One of my regulars even said she caught her pocketing tips and not putting them in our communal bucket while I was working with her. Well, tournament season started, which everyone dreaded/looked forward to. Dreaded because the shifts were twice or 3 times as long as normal and there was a constant rush of people at the bar. Looked forward to because shifts were 2 or 3 times as long as normal and there was a constant rush of people at the bar. So we'd make as much in a day as we did in a week. Well, the first tournament was teams that she considered hers. They bowled on her side on days she worked, so she knew them well and was looking forward to their tournament tips. She came in, saw that I was scheduled to bartend that day, and flipped out. She started ranting to the manager, who happened to be the scheduling manager, and the owner of the place happened to be standing there. The owner pretty much said I was one of the better bartenders, so I was getting put on the tournaments, and if she didn't like it, she could just leave. My coworker left, and then I got to work her normal shifts as well. When I was a kid I threw a basketball into a puddle in front of a friend of mine, splashing him. I'm walking backwards, pointing and laughing. I then turn around right into a pole and knock myself out. My dad kicked our dog because it was standing in front of the fridge and he wanted a beer. But as soon as he opened the fridge, the shelf that was holding the beer fell off and every single can busted open. Please subscribe and leave a like if you enjoyed this video and if you want to see more of Reddit Universe.